Thanks, councillors. We'll reconvene the meeting now that we believe we've sorted the technology out. So I'll ask individual councillors now to talk individually. We'll go to Councillor Cardew first.
Thank you, Mayor. After careful consideration, I have decided I will not be supporting this budget in its current form. While I support the general rate increase of 3.6% in keeping with CPI, I do not support a deficit position of $341,000, as I believe council should be operating within its own means. In my last term of council, I advocated on many occasions that council needed to change the way we deliver services. Messages from our community along the lines of our town centres look terrible, our cemeteries look terrible, our roads and roadside drainage is terrible, our building assets and infrastructure are failing due to poor maintenance, and the list goes on. This budget, as well as previous budgets, have not adequately addressed these issues by changing the way we deliver our services. In the last term, we underwent a service level review to look into all service levels of council. The review identified we need to do better to improve things in this space. The only way we can do this is to change the way we deliver services and start to allocate additional funding and resources to these areas. I'm not prepared to spend another term in council following the same trend. We need to change, and we need to change now. And it is for these reasons I will not be supporting this budget in its current form. Thank you.
Councillor Hayden.
Okay, the budget delivers on the council's strategic intent and supports our ongoing mandate for excellent service delivery. The council have committed to providing and improving the livability of the region and looks forward to the continued delivery of service and infrastructure for the Tablelands. I congratulate fellow councillors for their enthusiasm in preparing the budget for 2024-25 in such a short time frame following the elections. This is our budget, and yet we were given the final capital budget only 2 days ago. The budget is the main item councillors have control over. I am disappointed that councillors did not have the input into the capital budget as we should have been allowed to. Carryovers from 2023 to 24, such as the Hebden Precedent, otherwise known as Battery Park, which had an allocation of $500,000 for the 2023-24 budget and an allocation of $250,000 for the budget year of 2024-25, has been wiped away, leaving now $400,000 in the 2024-25 for the budget for this project without any consultation with councillors. So in saying this, I do thank all the staff that were involved in the various components of presenting the budget for 2024-25.
Thanks. We'll go to Councillor Barty.
Sure. So as a new councillor, I don't have a lot to say. I just really want to thank my fellow councillors for helping with this and the council officers. Things I am excited about in the budget are the water projects. I think they're a really big deal, especially in 2024. I'll be supporting the budget, and thanks everyone.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Spanos.
Morning everyone. I'd like to echo what Marie has just said. However, I will be supporting the budget and I'll be going generally off officers' recommendations. A lot of those things that have been tabled to us, I do not understand, I'll be honest about that. However, over the next 12 months, coming to the next budget, I'd like to have a little more input in that. But currently, I'll be taking most of it on officers' recommendations, and that's how I've come to this level. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lang.
As a newly established council delivering our first budget, I want to thank the officers for their efforts in providing us with the information through numerous information sessions. Taking into consideration the current financial strain on many households, council has chosen to increase the rates by 3.6%, which is lower than the council cost index of 3.9%. After reviewing the budget, which is an evolving working document, and recognising the council has a significant opportunity to make resolutions that will ultimately impact the organisation's financial bottom line, I fully support and endorse this budget.
Thanks very much. Councillor Building.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This budget is the first to be delivered by the newly formed council, and I would like to express my gratitude to all the finance team, all the officers involved and fellow councillors for the budget formation, which is where we are at today. It is well known about the costs of living pressures and those impacts that continue to affect our community. Council is no different and not immune to those same challenges whilst delivering its services. There is an ongoing dilution in the value of our dollar as Council undertakes core projects and its service delivery responsibilities. Whilst taking the cost of living into account, Council has been able to contain its rate increase in line with CPI, which is tracking at 3.6%. This is also slightly below Council's cost indicator of 3.9%. There is a modest deficit forecast, however, given the known issues, I believe a prudent financial approach has been achieved with this budget. Whilst it may be preferable to have a balanced budget, Council have been able to deliver surplus results in the last 3 years, which is testament to sound financial control and management from the organisation. Forward projections contained within the long-term financial plan reveal an anticipated return to surplus in the coming years. It is also my firm belief that officers are aware of Council's desire to contain expenditure and reduce the potential deficit, which can and will be monitored through ongoing quarterly reviews. Council continues to roll out critical infrastructure projects and upgrades with 15.8 million on water improvements in Ravensthorpe and Malanda, 14.3 million on roads, bridges, footpaths and drains, and an additional 9.9 on road repairs from recent flooding events. This is a considerable increase in investment into our significant road corridors and reflects community expectations. I have commented previously at budget time where Council would continue to run the ruler against the budget to contain expenditure whilst delivering our existing levels of service. Council will continue to embark on its service review with the intent to ensure how these services continue to be delivered, ensuring we continue to be a modern, contemporary council. This, in my view, underpins the long-term sustainability of the organisation, whilst balancing the needs and expectations of our community. So, in summary, it is my view that given the present cost of living issues that we are all experiencing, this budget is responsible, providing equity within revenue collection and allowing Council to deliver the services that contribute to the livability of our region. I support the Mayor's budget.
Thanks very much, Councillor Billney. Thanks, councillors, for your comments. I bring everyone's attention to the report that's in front of us, 6.1, 2024-2025 Budget and Operational Plan. Could I have a mover and seconder for item 1, averaging of land value? Councillor Billney's moving. Seconder, Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Item 2, rating categories. Could I have a mover and seconder for rating categories? Councillor Lang and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 3, differential general rates. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Barty and Councillor Lang. Those in favour? Carried. Item 4, special charges. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Billney. Those in favour? Carried. Item 4.3. Correct? Yeah. 4.3, special charge for the Malanda sewerage scheme. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Barty and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 5, emergency management fire and rescue levy. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Cardew and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 6, rural fire brigade levy. A mover and seconder. So yeah, Councillor Spanos and Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 7, sewerage utility charges. A mover and seconder, Councillor Lamb and Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Sorry, that was 7A, councillors. We'll go down the page to 7B. Can I have a mover for 7B? Councillor Lang is moving 7B. And Councillor Barty. Those in favour, 7B. Councillor Spanos, were you voting or not voting?
Sorry, I wasn't voting, no.
Yeah, so we're voting on 7B. It's been moved by Councillor Lang, seconded by Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 8, water utility charges. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Barty and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried. Item 9, waste management utility charges. Can we have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Bilney and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried. Item 10, levy and payment. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Barty and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 11, discount. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lang and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried. Item 12, interest. A mover and seconder, Councillor Spanos and Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried. Concessions. A mover and seconder, please. That's Councillor Barty and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 14, water usage concession policy. Those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Cardew is moving, and a seconder, Councillor Lamb. Those in favour? Thank you. Item 15, water usage concession policy for not-for-profit recreation and sporting clubs. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cardew and Councillor Spanos.
Mayor, can I just comment on this one? before we go to the vote?
You can, yep.
This is the one that we're going to be amending, this policy, I believe. So, this is, to my understanding, this is voting for the existing policy, and I think we've been given an undertaking that this is going to be reviewed in the next few months. Am I correct in saying that?
We're looking at the suite of policies that relate to concessions for our not-for-profit sporting clubs and the like, Councillor Cardew, that's correct. I'm not sure that I can say until we've been through that process that we're going to amend one of these policies specifically, but we're certainly reviewing them. And if amendments are deemed appropriate by council, then they will be put forward as amendments, yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that people out there know that we are going to be looking at it to amend it, because at the moment, as we all know, there's been lots of issues in this area, and that we've identified that, and we've taken those comments on board by the various not-for-profit organisations, and we're going to be looking at it. Thank you.
Those in favour? Carried. Item 16, rates and charges concession policy. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Spanos and Councillor Lang. Those in favour? Carried. Item 17, adoption of revenue statement. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lang and Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Item 18, adoption of annual operational plan. Can I have a mover? Councillor Bilney and Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Item 19, adoption of financial statements. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lang and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried. Item 20, investment policy. A mover and seconder. So that's Councillor Lang and Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Item 21, debt policy. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bilney and Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Item 22, revenue policy. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Spanos and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 23, procurement policy. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cardew and Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. Item 24, statement of estimated financial position. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Spanos and Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 25, estimated activity statement. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Barty and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried. Item 26, business activities. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lang. Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried. Item 27, adoption of the budget. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Spanos. And a seconder, please. Councillor Vilney. Those in favour? Carried. Thanks, Jackie. Councillors, that brings an end to our budget adoption for the 24-25 year. So we'll end that meeting now. Thank you very much for your attendance. And we'll take, it's about 10 to 10. We might take a morning tea break till say 10 past 10. Give us 20 minutes to have a break. I think there's some morning tea in the kitchen. If you'd like to get a tea or coffee or some morning tea. Thanks, everyone. Councillors, could I ask for a motion to reconvene our ordinary council meeting, please? So Councillor Vilney's moving a motion to reconvene. Councillor Spanos is seconding that motion. That the meeting resume. Thank you, Jackie. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, we'll just rejoin the meeting where we left off earlier this morning. I think the next matter to deal with is declarations of any material personal interests, conflicts of interest by councillors or senior council officers. Do we have any declarations, councillors? Councillor Barty.
Yeah, just in relation to item 16.2, the Missing Creek Walking Trail, I've just got to declare that I'm a member of the Yungaburra Land Care, but I'm not on the management committee and I don't take part in any of the decision making. I propose to remain in the meeting while this matter is debated and the vote is taken.
Thanks, Councillor Barty. Is everyone satisfied with Councillor Barty's declaration there and intention? Yep. Thank you. So that brings us to item 7, which is the confirmation of the minutes. So the first minutes that we'll go through. So the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 23rd of May. Can I have a mover that those, Councillor Barty's moving that those minutes are true and accurate record? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lang.
And I just have a correction.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Just in relation to my declaration of a conflict of interest, it says Yungaburra Association Committee. It's not. It's Yungaburra Land Care.
What page is that?
What page? Sorry, guys. Page 2.
Page 2. You're aboard. Yeah, got it. You've got it, Jackie?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder, and we've also got an amendment to those minutes. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Am I missing minutes, or is there just one?
There's only one.
There's only one. That's good. Okay, councillors, that brings us to sorry, I didn't check whether we had business arising, and we do. And that's Councillor Hayden. I can't read that one, but
It's just in front of you there.
yep. So Councillor Hayden had a business without notice in relation to the finance report for non-local supplier to the amount of $594. Sorry?
Would you like me to talk to it?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I'm happy with what the recommendation that came back about it. It's just that the issue was that it was tennis net was donated and the council was too good to put it up and they had to go and buy a new one. That was my issue. Why did we purchase one when it was actually donated? And anyway, I've got it back and now I will be giving it to someone else. So that's all, that was the issue. It was all about why would we buy a tennis net when one was donated to Mount Garnet. So I've got my new net back and I will be doing something else with it now. There you go.
Thanks, Councillor Hogan. No, is there any further action on that, Councillor Hogan? Councillor Hogan, is that it?
That's it.
If there's no further business arising from the minutes, we have a deputation here this morning, councillors. Mr. Matt Lachlan. I'll invite Matt to come up to the front here to talk about the Malanda Pavilion, and anyone else who's with you, Matt, can come up to the front. Okay, Matt, when you're ready.
The pavilion is more than just a building. It is part of the social tapestry that gives Malanda its identity. The pavilion means a great deal to so many people. It is the iconic defining landmark of our town. The building holds immense historical, cultural and social value as an integral part of our community. The community outcry over the last 6 weeks is unprecedented. The community is devastated, the community is angry. Devastated that this iconic building has been allowed to deteriorate to this point. Devastated that the demolition of the building is being considered. Angry that we as a community feel like we've been let down, not listened to and ignored. People that don't normally voice their opinions are speaking out. I've witnessed the elderly and frail travel to sign the petition to have their voice heard. I've seen tears, desperation and real sadness. How did it get to this point? In 2015, a building inspection by Culver raised issues concerning termite damage, including to structural arch members. It outlined severe damage to the roof and fixings that required replacement. It raised issues with the purlins, which are structural roof cross members, being undersized and inadequate, causing the entire roof to be uneven and wavy. It recommended installing new purlins and bracketry, new cladding, and referred to extensive damage found in one of the timber arches. The report stated the roof trusses need to be inspected and the damaged trusses should be replaced or repaired. In November 2018, a comprehensive structural engineering assessment was carried out by PDR SMEC. The report found that the issues raised in the 2015 report had not been rectified. It reaffirmed that the roofing, purlins and purlin bracketry required replacing. It found damage to the trusses, including wet rot, termite damage and rusted fasteners. It stated upon removal of the existing cladding, it is recommended that each truss be individually inspected and identified to affected members and fixings be replaced. There is a high probability for a significant proportion of truss members to be found to be inadequate as uncovering work progresses. The report summarised. In addition to the works proposed to return the property to a sound structural condition, it is recommended that the asset owner consider a detailed maintenance and inspection regime. Despite TRC recently claiming that assessments have been conducted annually, there were no further engineering reports carried out in 2019, 20, 21 or 22. Why not? The structural issues raised in the 2015 and 2018 reports were not addressed. Repairs were not carried out. In 2020, an internal report was submitted to Council titled Malanda Community Facilities Options. Within the report, Council Office proposed demolishing the pavilion and replacing it with a multi-purpose facility. Consultation of the Chamber of Commerce and special interest groups took place. Proper consultation of the wider community did not. In 2020, the Malanda Show Society was approached regarding moving the show to the high school. This happened around the same time that the sale of Malanda Falls Caravan Park was first put on the agenda, whilst the demolition of the pavilion was being discussed by council officers. What has never been explained is why the Show Society and the Bowls Club were both approached regarding moving their facilities. There's been no transparency and no accountability. No further engineering assessments were undertaken until 2023, some 5 years later. The TEG Structural Condition and Assessment Report, dated 1st of June 23, states the current inspection revealed that very little had been done to rectify any of the damage previously identified, and subsequently most of the issues remain and many have become more serious, adding to the dilapidation of the structure. The report found extensive damage and buckling of the roof due to missing beams. It found rot and damage to the truss frame, which are structural parts of the building. It found rotten timber joists. rusty nails and gaps meaning structural members were not secured. All this had been previously identified. It found major damage to the truss frame, comprising the structural integrity of the building. The report rated the risk factor of the curved truss frame as high, with failure likely within a 12-month period. The recommendation: take immediate action in the short term to address defects. We are talking about the impending failure of the structural integrity of the building, posing a potential threat to life, and despite TRC having been informed that failure was likely in just 12 months, nothing was done, the building was not repaired, and every person that used that facility, unbeknown to them, put themselves at risk. TRC has a duty to maintain public assets to a reasonable standard. TRC has an absolute duty of care to the public. TRC has failed on both accounts. In the absence of any repair work undertaken, the failure of those trusses was inevitable. 1 year later, the engineering report of Black & Moore found a predicted failure had indeed occurred. The May 24 report found very serious structural failures that present a significant risk to users of the building. These failures are in several curved timber trusses, which are the primary structural members. The structure is not safe for occupation, and entry should immediately be excluded. And here we are. What I've said is indisputable. It is within the engineering reports. The building is at imminent risk of collapse due to TRC's failure to carry out the necessary maintenance and repair work first identified 9 years ago. It is clear the decision was made to not carry out the repair work to justify the demolition of the building. Council knew this was inevitable. It had the reports. What did TRC think was going to happen if the recommendations of independent engineers were ignored? The question now is, where does it end? Is it acceptable for council to willfully neglect this building, seeking to justify its demolition? The wider community was never consulted and consent was never provided. Is it acceptable for the building to now be bulldozed in spite of what has occurred? Absolutely not. The principles for council conduct, as per the Local Government Act, state transparent and effective processes, sustainable development and management of assets, democratic representation, social inclusion, and meaningful community engagement. It is clear these principles have not been adhered to. This brings us here today. For now, I'm here extending an olive branch to council on behalf of the community. We want to work positively and constructively with council to ensure the Patrick English Pavilion is saved and restored. With that in mind, and in the absence of any information being provided, we'd like assurances that temporary supports have been or immediate that will be added to prevent the collapse of the building. I have a petition which in less than a month has amassed 900 signatures. The petition states, this petition of interested members of the public draws to council's attention the perilous state of the Patrick English Pavilion in Malanda. The building has a rich history dating back to World War II and is one of only 3 surviving igloos of its type in Queensland. Since 1947, the pavilion has been an integral part of the Malanda show. The pavilion has immense social and cultural value to the community and is a defining landmark of our town. The failure of TRC to adequately maintain and repair the building has led to the current situation where the building faces the prospect of demolition. Petitioners therefore request the Tablelands Regional Council save the Malanda Pavilion from demolition, properly restore the building, and take all necessary measures to ensure this historic building is properly maintained post-restoration. I stand before you today as one of many community members prepared to work with council to ensure that is exactly what occurs. If the need be, let's get creative and look at funding options, including the part fundraising by community. If council wants to look at community ownership model for the pavilion, so be it. Let's put all meaningful options on the table in order to help save this building. TRC's definition of consultation has been in stark contrast to wider community expectations. TRC consultation does not meet the principles outlined under the Local Government Act. The community has the right to expect dedicated, inclusive, comprehensive consultation from independent council officers, an engagement officer that can properly conduct consultation of the entire community without potential conflicts of interest. In spite of officers' claims made under section 12.1 of today's agenda, the pavilion can and must be repaired. Had it been properly maintained, we would not be having this discussion today. In the absence of a pending motion, I elect not to submit the petition today, as many more people are wanting to sign. I'd ask Warren to say a few words.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. First of all, I just want to acknowledge my traditional owners, elders past and present, and everyone here today. And thank you for this opportunity to be able to stand up here and be able to speak on about the igloo. Well, the igloo, that's all Nudgun country. And as well as that, before the igloo was there, that used to be a big dancing ground for all of us. for the Nudgun people, because back in the colonial days, they got taken back behind the Malanda Falls. And now when we got we got taken away from up the top for the falls there. And what has happened is, you know, over time, they built the Malanda Igloo there, and because of our family, the Nudgun people have a great respect and value with all of the non-traditional owner people there. And we've, you know, had the respect and everything like that, and they built the hall and that, and they did the football grounds. But over the time, I've had my grandmother's 100th birthday there. She's an elder from the Nudgun tribe. We haven't just been here for, as well as that, for 50 years, 100 years. We've been here for 40,000 years plus. And the Malanda Pavilions settled our native title determination. We were the first in Queensland to have an MOU written up with the state and federal government there. We've had our funerals there, because in the other areas there in the churches because we come from a large family. No other church, I think, is capable to be able to hold 300 people plus. And the Malanda Pavilion has been an opportunity for us to do that and have the wakes there. It's an integral part of us as traditional owners of Nudgun people. It's a part of our cultural heritage, and we feel now that if you demolition the Malanda Igloo, you're gonna again take away our cultural heritage that we've gained and worked with non-Indigenous, Indigenous people to be able to keep our cultural heritage alive. And we believe you knock down the igloo, there again, colonialism, and that's going to knock down and take away our cultural heritage of who we belong to here. We're supposed to be working together as one, and as well as that, you know, all the old people and that are really upset because no consultation or no public. I thought when a position like that, a building was going to demolish, I thought it would go out to a public opinion, put up a notice for 3 months out there for the people to be able to make their concerns and be able to, you know, work with the council and work with everyone to be able to come to a common law, come to a common ground to be able to agree on the situation. But for us as Nudgun people, we feel that it's a bit upsetting because all of them years of all of our celebrations and everything like that, we feel like that we've lost our cultural heritage to another area. And that's really upsetting to all our old people in Malanda, and that we would like you to come to the table and be able to sit down and talk with the community in Malanda. Not Atherton, not Herberton, not anywhere, Malanda, because that's where we are, because that's an iconic place, and to us that's our cultural heritage. And there again, we believe that you're going to go and destroy our cultural heritage again. We've been fighting for 200 years to try and work an agreement to be able to come to a common ground and share our knowledge both ways, non-Indigenous and Indigenous, and we believe you're not doing that again, and it's very upsetting for the old people. So from the elders from Malanda and the traditional owners, please come together so we can sit down and have a consultation and talk about the Malanda Igloo, because it's very iconic to us and it's our cultural heritage too, just as much as yours. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Warren and Matt. And look, just the first thing that council will do will be community engagement. I mean, since we've got this advice from the engineers, our immediate focus has been to get the Malanda show delivered, and that's got a few challenges that we're working through with the Show Association. But once we get beyond the Malanda show, then we'll start, you know, a formal process with the Malanda community.
It would be great
about the pavilion. Matt, you did say that you were going to withhold the petition until a later time, are you?
Correct, yes.
Yep, okay. All right, thanks very much.
No worries.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, that brings us to item 11.1. 11.1, Tablelands Local Housing Action Plan. Can I have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew is moving, and Councillor Spanos. Councillor Cardew?
I just ask if the planning manager could just do an update so people out and go, we can have a listen.
Thanks, Sean.
Through the chair, yeah, absolutely, councillor. So, local housing action plans are an initiative that has been brought forward through the state government's actions around housing. So, particularly out of the housing strategy and more recently the Homes for Queenslanders plan. They provided funding to all regional councils across Queensland to prepare these local housing action plans. And they've engaged, and they've provided that funding through the Local Government of Queensland Association, to assist. We've been working closely with them on this local housing action plan, and we have engaged key stakeholders within our community, intimately engaged in the provision of social housing around that. So the local housing plan itself focuses on 4 key areas, which are increasing housing supply and diversity across our region, looking at housing for people in need, building the capacity in the homelessness sector, and housing for the local workforce. We've agreed on 40 actions in relation to those points. The implementation of those actions will be a joint collaborative effort across all of the stakeholders, Queensland Government, TRC and local stakeholders. Importantly, coming out of the Homes for Queenslanders plan, there is some funding provided to assist councils in achieving some of these actions, particularly around our work in the strategic planning space. But look, a collective approach to addressing some of those significant housing challenges which TRC is not immune to, which is a good thing at the end of the day.
Thank you, Councillor Cardew.
Thank you, John. Yeah, no, nothing further.
Councillor Billney.
Yeah, through the chair. Sean, having had recent discussions with a couple of not-for-profits in Malanda, will this housing action plan assist in reducing the processing of converting state-owned land into freehold property? Is that one of the intents with this plan? And secondly, how will this fit into an upcoming planning scheme update?
Through the chair, it will absolutely do responses in relation to the delivery of more housing, and that will be across a number of actions. There are some actions there centred around council and the state government looking at their current land holding, their current assets holding, and whether they can be repurposed for the delivery of housing. So to the first point, Councillor Vilney, yes, absolutely. And council has commenced that process in terms of looking at some of its surplus land and looking at what we can potentially, or the opportunity that creates. Secondly, you will see a number of actions in relation to our strategic planning. So there's a number of actions there in relation to looking at our land supply. We did undertake a land supply assessment in 2021, but I guess it might allude to another agenda item next. We know things have changed significantly over the last couple of years, so it's probably prudent that we go back and have a look at some of the metrics around our land supply, ensuring we have adequate land supply to cover the growing needs of our region. So yes, absolutely, actions against both those points, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillors, final call. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Item 11.2, commencement of 10-year planning scheme review. Could I have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew, and seconder Councillor Barty. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. No, I fully support this. About time. As we all know, there's been a lot of changes since the last planning scheme, even though it's had half a dozen reviews in that time, but this is outdated big time. We need a really good big fresh look at this. So yeah, no, fully support this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, through the chair. Just if I can add a bit of detail around what this recommendation seeks to do is commence the first stage of our planning scheme review process, whereby there is a process under the legislation where we do a preliminary review of our scheme to assess its currency, looking at certain things around how we've performed over the last 10 years. Councillor Cardew is correct insofar as we have made amendments to the planning scheme, but they really have been at the operational level. We haven't taken a step back and looked at a bit more of a holistic review of the planning scheme, particularly given how that change I just alluded to in the previous agenda item about how much we have grown over the last couple of years, and making sure we're ahead of the ball rather than playing catch up from behind. So particularly important bit of work for us to commence here in Development Services.
Thank you. Councillors, any more questions on this one? Councillor Billings?
Through the chair, just a comment. You know, my view that the local planning scheme, it's a strategic initiative which can significantly enhance sustainability, livability, and economic vitality of the community. So I guess it ensures that the planning framework remains relevant and effective. And addressing the contemporary challenges and opportunities. So I think it's timely that we are looking at it because we have changed in the since the last 10 years ago, or close to 10 years ago.
And through the chair, that preliminary review will form a scope of works regarding the extent of the planning scheme review, and there is an option there that an outcome might be we prepare a new planning scheme rather than amend the current one based on those factors you've just talked about.
Yep.
Final call, councillors. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 11.3, business continuity management policy, corporate UCP and pandemic plan. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Billing. Seconder? Councillor Spanos. Councillor Billing.
Look, I've nothing to add to the report that's been tabled unless the Senior Advisor of Emergency Management has anything further to add. Sorry, Sarah, I've got nothing to add as the mover of the thing. I just didn't know whether you wanted to have any further comments or...
No, other than to just say, I guess that the documents are subject to ongoing review. Every year we review them, and every year they are further refined and developed. This year we've replaced our framework with a policy and procedure. We've updated our business impact analysis. The corporate business continuity plan and the policy are there for your adoption, and also the pandemic plan. So thank you.
Thank you. Final call, councillors. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 11.4, the F&Q Regional Organisation of Councils, meetings of the minutes of the 18th of April. Can we have a mover that they be accepted? Councillor Hayden. A seconder? Councillor Lang. Councillor Hayden, would you like to? Yeah, okay. Councillors, I can just give you an update on perhaps the more recent ROC meeting, just so that you know what we discussed in June. This will be more current than what's been discussed at the April meeting. But CEO and I went to Cassowary Coast in June for a ROC meeting. So one of the agenda items was the we've set a timeline for the regional strategy for the F&Q ROC for when we go to do our advocacy in Brisbane and in Canberra. So we're getting together in July to have a discussion about advocacy for the ROC councils. We also adopted the F&Q ROC budget for 24-25, just as we did as a council this morning. We also had a presentation from the LGAQ regarding the lead intergovernmental relations program that they have. So that was from Lucy Green. I haven't got the printout of that here. And we also endorsed the draft regional drought resource plans for the wet tropics and the Gulf hinterland. They were being, they're going to be reviewed by CSIRO, but we've endorsed those plans for the wet tropics and the hinterland. Mayor Millwood from Cassary Coast was elected to the Regional Waste Management and Resource Recovery Advisory Group. And that's about it. There's a bit more detail in these more recent minutes here, councillors. If you'd like to ask for them or come and have a chat to me, we'll share them. But they'll come. Those minutes will come to the next meeting for adoption. But they're the most recent ones. I thought that would be more valuable than the April ones. Those in Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you very much for the update. And I was the instigator of the recommendation at the previous meeting where we get a bit of a brief update of these minutes. I just want to be clear that I didn't really, my intention was not to have a copy of the minutes given to us for adoption from the F&Q Rock minutes, but to get a briefing from the Mayor about the feeling and what's happening there and the direction that the F&Q Rock's going, and a bit of an insight into some of the discussions that I had there. That's more what I was chasing, and the Mayor's given that for the June meeting. The other thing I really want to know is there's a couple of things. One is that what's this council's strategic direction for what we want to achieve out of being involved in F&Q Rock. In the previous term, we had visions of, for example, getting the Palmerston Highway upgraded to semi-trailer status, multiple semi-trailer status down to Meridian Harbour. That was one of our visions. But so what's this council's vision going to be? What message do we want to take to, we want our mayor and CEO to take to F&Q Rock? What do we want to see out of F&Q Rock? You know, what's our vision? That's something that I think we need to work and to maybe have a workshop in the very near future to get that vision, so that the mayor and CEO can take our vision to F&Q Rock, get it implemented if we can into the regional plan or what have you. So that's the sort of thing, that's the big picture sort of stuff that I want to see talked about and reported back to us, where we're going with our big picture vision for TRC.
Sorry, could I, sure, with your permission, through the chair, that the questions that you're posing there, Councillor Cardew, are perfectly valid. I suggest that it's slightly broader. It's about our advocacy efforts and who we partner with and how we advocate for what we want, and who we partner up with: Advanced Cans, F&Q Rock, LJQ, different people at different times. So happy to have the information session, certainly happy to have the discussion. Can absolutely assure you that the Palmerston and the harbour and that remained very much front of mind throughout the last term, but we do need to reset that agenda and set our advocacy priorities, short term, medium term, and who we're going to partner up. But I suggest that the Rock is quite an effective organisation in that lobbying process, but we can talk about that through an information session, which we need to have fairly soon, so that we can properly respond in the sessions that are planned for July.
Thank you.
Happy with that, Councillor Cardew? Thank you. All right, councillors, we've got a mover and seconder of the F&Q Rock minutes of the 18th of April. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. That brings us to 11.5, which is the appointment of F&Q Regional Roads and Transport Group representative, and yeah, this is also part of the Rock structure as well. But do we have a councillor who would like to nominate for this? I think Councillor Hayden expressed her interest. that she'd like to nominate for that. And in terms of a proxy for councillor Hayden, if council's in agreement, I'm happy to be the proxy for her, given that I have to attend the ROC meetings as well. It just means I would need to get there a bit earlier if councillor Hayden wasn't going to be there. I think that the roads meeting happens first, doesn't it? Yeah. So if councillors are in agreement, councillor Hayden would be the councillor representative, and I'd be the backup for that. Unless a councillor wants to formally be the backup. Okay, so if everyone's happy with that, we'll just wait till this is finalised.
And you're keen to do it? Anna, you're keen to do it? Yeah.
Okay, councillors, we've got, is that finished, Jackie, that one? Is that good, Jackie?
Yeah.
Thank you. So we've got the motion up on the board there with councillor Hayden as the rep and myself as the proxy or alternate. Those in favour?
Oh, we need to move a second. Did I miss that?
Sorry.
Good point. Good point. I did skip that process. So we might have councillor Hayden as the mover, if you're happy, councillor Hayden.
Yep.
And councillor Spanos as the seconder. Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. Those in favour? Carried. So that brings us to 11.6, investment incentive policy update and amendment. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation, Councillor Cardew and Councillor Bilney. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. When I first read this, the hairs in the back of my neck stood up and didn't quite understand exactly what this was all about, but since then I've been informed by our senior officers that it is a good thing, and they've shed a little bit of light on it, a bit of insight into this, which I'm completely happy with. So I might just ask them to give a quick overview in order for the benefit of their listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, councillors. The policy itself, as per the report, I guess it's been developed to respond to the needs of the development industry and also the needs of our community. Since the policy was adopted to date, it's supported deemed eligible over 100 short-term accommodation and multiple dwellings. So it is delivering for the community. As per the report, the state is also working in this space now, and the amendments proposed to the report reflect the changes in the position that Queensland Government's new policy, the infill incentive policy, has taken. And Sean, I don't know if you wanted to speak about that from a planning perspective.
Sure, thanks Andrew, and through the chair. So yeah, the Incentivising Infill Development Fund, again, is another product of the Homes for Queenslanders plan, which is offering a $350 million fund for eligible residential development across Queensland. So the amendments proposed to our incentive policy essentially recognise the opportunity provided under that funding, recognise that the offer under that funding program far and exceed what council is offering under this incentive. Therefore, it is beneficial for any proponent to probably go through that process before they come to council, which is the intent of the proposed change in relation to proponents seeking funding under the Incentivising Infill Development Fund. Another part of that funding is that whilst the developer will get their infrastructure charges and other associated fees waived, those fees are paid to council at the end of the day. So council's policy currently waives those fees. The estates fund We'll waive them for the developer but pay them to local government, so beneficial for both. Like I said, the offer again exceeds council's capped infrastructure charges incentive under this policy. So we think that proposed changes will result in some good outcomes for some developments across our region. The second proposed amendment seeks to just widen the scope for eligible development across our region. Currently, we have a specific development listed, specific residential development listed there, and we're seeking to expand that with the inclusion of the development of multi-unit development in the low-density residential zone. So again, honing in on that, the targeted development, the incentive seeks to support, essentially supporting all residential in our urban centres.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sean.
I've just got a question about a term. What is a major catalytic project?
So a major catalytic project is one that might fall outside of the scope of the broader policy. So where there's a significant investment, like a new accommodation, hotel, or major industry coming in.
Yeah.
So anything that sort of falls outside policy or the policy guidelines in terms of the quantum of industry support would be classed as catalytic, and we would be assessed on a case-by-case basis and brought to council.
Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Billey?
Yeah, through the chair, I just got a comment to make that I think it really makes sense not to utilise the waiver of council infrastructure charges up front if those funds can be leveraged from the state. It makes sense. As Sean, you clearly stated, you know, we have a maximum amount of 100,000 that we can waive. The state can go much higher than that, so it's a lot broader. Our policy is pretty much a fallback position in the event that fails. So I think it's it makes sense to support.
If I may, just through the chair, point out, obviously we're now looking to the state's funding. So in the situation where they fully subscribed or fully expended that fund, we will implement our policy such that we won't be requesting evidence from an applicant, so to speak, to say that they've gone through that. We'll just recognise that as the case and assess any application following that point in time.
Very good. Councillor Cardew?
At that, if the state, if this is all the money, the state money is used up and no longer available, we can then re-amend our policy to take that component out.
Through the chair, whether we need to or we don't, we like I've just said, we'll treat it on a case-by-case basis, but we won't, if the state's policy is fully expended, we won't be asking for evidence from a proponent to tell us that. We'll just process any request.
Okay, councillors, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. That brings us to infrastructure and planning services and 12.1. The Malanda Show Society funding request. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Billney's moving. Seconder? Councillor Barty. Councillor Billney.
Yeah, through the chair. Firstly, I'd just like to thank officers for working through the current situation that we've had with the current situation with the Patrick English Pavilion. We'll set that aside. The immediate concerns was how can council assist for the Malanda Show Society to run a successful event, which, and my colleague here might argue, but I'm told it's the biggest event that's held in the TRC footprint, with an average patronage of around $15,000 people over that 3-day period. So for me, it's critical that we have the show continue as best we can. Again, I tip my hat to officers that have really engaged with the executive to assist where they can and make it happen.
Thanks very much. Yeah, Councillor Hayden.
Okay, I agree with supporting and providing assistance. I would like to just question some of the expenses. So if we look at the Pavilion was shut on the 17th of the 5th, that's when the mesh went up. Yet we have stationery, which I'd like to see if it was pre-purchased and it was in the room, for over $1,300. So my question is even we've got drink tickets, we've got armbands, were they pre-purchased before it was closed or after it was closed? And on top of that, is the 5,000 we give for the events also added to this as well? So to me, like, we're buying everything in there. I mean, I'd like to know, and I'd like to see invoices matched with some of this.
Yeah, look, I'm not, would you have that information here today?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So through the chair, thank you for your question, Councillor Hayden. Because of the immediate closure of the pavilion, a lot of the equipment was actually shut in. So things like the armbands and some of the stationery items, such as printers and some of the, just to run at the office, was all made unavailable immediately. So we've helped. Basically, that is what there is. We have got some of the invoices available, and I can circulate those after the meeting. So yes, it was actually to reimburse them for things that they were unable to access from the Show Society office.
Thanks very much.
Was there another section to your question there?
Oh yes, so the $5,000 we give through the events budget, is that going to be taken off that, or is that added on as well?
That would be a separate, completely separate to this claim. Yeah.
Councillors, are there any more questions or discussion on this one? Did you have anything you wanted to add, Tanya?
No, just thank you to the Show Society, who have been so fabulous to work with. We understand it's been a very significant blow to them for the show, and they have been really great to work with. And thank you to Councillor Bilney also, who we've been working closely with on this matter.
Yeah, great job. Yeah, it's a big project, and we'll do everything we can to get it done. Councillors, if there's no more questions on this one, we've got a mover and a seconder. Those in favour? Carried. Thanks, Tim. Thank you. So that brings us to item 12.2, TRC 2024-04, TRC DRFA 2023 South 2. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Sorry, Councillor Hayden and Councillor Cardew. So Councillor Hayden?
No, I'm happy with what has been recommended by officers.
Councillors? No questions? Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.3.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask that this item be first considered during the closed session of council? We're just seeking some advice and we have some legal advice that we'd like to share with council prior to considering this matter.
Sounds good. All right, so we will defer that one to the confidential. Is that what we're doing?
Yes, this is 12.3.
12.3. Okay. Do you need to move a motion to do
Yes,
that?
yes, Mr. Mayor.
So yeah, could we have a motion that we refer 12.3 to our confidential session later on this morning? So that is TRC 2024-05, TRC DRFA 2023-South 1.
Just a question, if we need to give a reason in accordance with the local regulations.
To consider legal advice received.
So that would be Article 254JE.
Fantastic, thank you.
254JE. I knew that. Just want to make sure.
Very impressive. So can we have a mover that we do that, and for the reasons stated by our general manager?
What was that, Lee? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Just to consider legal advice that we've received in respect of that matter, and I think that's all I'd like to say for now.
So do we have a mover and seconder to refer that to our confidential? So Councillor Lang and Councillor Barty? Yeah. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. That brings us to item 12.4, TRC 2024-06, TRC DRFA 2023, East and West. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Bilney. Councillor Hayden.
Sorry, I'm losing your voice.
All good with that. Councillors? Councillor Kaji?
Yeah, I've got a question there. I didn't realise this until just last night when I was reading this again. But out of the 5 tenderers, we've got 2 locals. And those 2 locals have been doing work for TRC for a long, long time. But what I didn't realise until last night was that tender of 4 is actually cheaper than tender of 5, and yet tender of 5, they're both locals, and yet tender of 5 got the contract, or is being recommended to have the contract. Can I ask why?
Look, Councillor Kaji, this is really concerning, because what we do as a council is we set the goalposts on what the hoops the tenderers have to jump through when they put in a tender. So we, the council, set those goalposts. So then our officers are then required to treat all those tenderers according to the goalposts that the council has set, and that's their job to do that, and they do that so that our system and our process has got integrity. And it's okay that if they make a recommendation at the end, it's okay if they make a recommendation that we don't like, because they've made a recommendation according to our goalposts that we set. So their recommendation comes from those criteria that we set. So if we're going to look at tenders and as individual councillors say, well, I don't agree with that, or I don't like that, therefore we should change it, well, that challenges our entire system of assessing tenderers. And we will lose credibility, we will lose integrity, the whole system will be shot. So there's no way we as councillors should be getting into that space. That's the whole reason that we have a separation between elected officers and our technical officers, so that they get in and do the due diligence, not us. They do it on our behalf. So it's really concerning, Councillor Kaji, that as an experienced councillor, you're bringing this up.
You finished? I'll speak now, if you don't mind.
I'm happy to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am happy to answer the question.
Councillor
Kaji. In general terms, we do a value for money assessment. It's not purely a price assessment. It is a value for money assessment, and we have criteria that we use to arrive at that value for money assessment and to rank each of those submissions, tenders that we've received. The short answer is its price isn't everything. It is value for money.
Well, I understand that we have a tendering process to go through. Completely agree. But if these tenders are coming to us for approval, if we can't ask a question, then why the hell are they coming to us for approval? Why don't the officers just approve them under the process? They're coming to us. I am not going to sit here in this council meeting and accept every recommendation that's put up by officers because the officer's recommendation says so. I will not do that. I'm sorry. We're not here for that, I believe. I asked a question, what is the difference? Why did we take the higher one as opposed to the lower one? I'm not questioning the tendering process or the matrix of how they arrived at this answer. I just want to know why.
Well, I think I can answer that on behalf of our officers. The reason we chose them was because They got the most, they got the highest score when they went through the goalposts that we set. They scored the highest.
Why did they score? Is there an explanation?
I'll enter it. So actually, if you've read some of the comments from the council staff, officers, the tenderer that has given this has the relevant experience with REPA and DRFA, the program experience, and it is actually quite different to what is asked on some other tenders that we asked for, and without saying names. And also, if you read one comment, that they submitted different methodologies and all that. So, I mean, you really have to read it, as I do read the tenders, and I do quite understand them. So there is relevant experience you need for the DRFA. It's a different sort of strategy you do when you do that sort of work.
Can I ask a question then? Has tenderer 4, as they have not done any DRFA contract before for us?
So through the chair, I believe the criteria that you're referring to specifically now is relevant skills and experience. So all of the information, including current and previous projects that both tenderers have undertaken, which they believe were similar to the works that we put forward, they have included as a part of their submission. So the difference that you see in the score between tenderer 4 and 5 specifically talks to the sheer number of projects they have submitted for this specific and similar type of works, and they were assessed accordingly. So there was a significant difference in the number of projects specific to this type of work that we saw in the tender submission, which was how it was assessed against the scoring criteria, which is below table 2.
Councillors.
Am I able to request an information session on the tendering process?
Sure. Absolutely. As part of your onboarding, we should certainly run through the tendering process, particularly probity in tendering, most important.
Councillors, are there any more questions on this one?
Just to be clear, Mr Mayor, quite happy to answer questions.
Councillors, we've got a mover and seconder on 12.4. Those in favour? Carried. That brings us to 12.5, TRC 2024-08, Kashmir Kirrama Road, gravel upgrade. Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Billney. Councillor Hayden.
No, I'm fine with that. There's,
yeah. Councillor Billney. Yep.
Yeah, through the chair. When I first read this, I just wanted to have it clear in my mind. So I've just got a question here. Is there, excuse me, a TIDS component within the funding? Budget appears to have increased from the original 250,000 for the 23-24 period to an additional 563,000, which is what we're being asked in this report. Is this because at the time when included in the capital budget for 23-24, the scope of work had been completed, and it was when the request for tender was called and potential tenders scoped it out what was required? Is that where we then come to an amount as such with the additional 563? I may have missed something, but that's the way I'm reading it, if that can be confirmed.
Yep. Through Chair, so when the initial budget was proposed, that was based on the unit rates that we had from the resheeting works that were completed in the southern area in particular, under the resheeting program last year. So that sort of formed the basis of that original 250,000 of what we thought this project would cost. However, the contractors have priced it higher, as you can see, due to there's significant challenges in the location, yeah, which has led to an increase in the price.
Okay, so just that, they didn't have a clear understanding what that scope was at the time when it was put into the budget. Yeah, fair enough.
In addition to that, in relation to your first question about TIDS funding, it's my understanding that the TIDS funding that was initially allocated in the 23-24 year has now been shifted to the 24-25 year. So there is TIDS funding.
Yes, that's correct.
To support this.
And TIDS is 50-50, is that correct?
So the approved TIDS funding was based on the original estimate, which was so $125,000 TIDS funding. That doesn't mean that throughout the year, when TIDS projects get reallocated through the Regional Roads and Transport Group, which Councillor Hayden is now on, that through those reallocations, as projects get deferred or delivery changes across all the other councils, that there could be potentially additional TIDS funding allocated to this project, but we'll definitely be advocating for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillors? 12.5, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. That brings us to 12.6, contract T00125, Yungaburra sewer upgrades, detailed design. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Barty and Councillor Cardew. Councillor Barty?
Yeah, I pretty much had my questions answered on this the other day, just regarding that the cost was above the $200,000 predicted, and that there isn't that many contractors that do this sort of work, so I'm happy with that. So take the officer's recommendation on this.
Thank you. Councillors, any more questions on this one? Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.7, Demand Management Initiatives Assessment Report. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew and Councillor Bilney seconding. Councillor Cardew.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. That report was pretty lengthy, Bruce, so I just quite didn't get enough time to read it all, so I wonder if you'd just give us a brief overview.
Yeah, absolutely, councillors. And the intent of tabling this report today was the first stage in having some information sessions for council to dive into the detail, because there is so much information in there. And we put the report up because it's a requirement of the funding agreement that council notes the report and gets it tabled. Just in general terms, the whole point of a demand management strategy is to try and identify initiatives to reduce the amount of water that's used by the community across our 13 water supply schemes. Why would we do that? Well, it can improve the reliability of the supply. It extends the life of your infrastructure, it defers the time until you need to upgrade the infrastructure, so there's a capital saving there, and reduces the water being taken from the environment, which is a good thing, and reduces your operations and maintenance costs. So there's a few things there that you want to do under a demand management strategy. This particular report's one element of 4 being delivered under this contract. The demand management initiatives assessment. So what the consultant's done is looked at the water balances across the 13 schemes and looked at opportunities to reduce demand. They looked at a suite of different things, from rainwater tanks to water efficient devices to leak detection. There's 9 education, playing with the price of the water as an incentive. So there's a few things they've looked at there. Probably some of the key outcomes from their assessment, when you look at figure 1 on page 180 of the council report there, they looked at the amount of what we call non-revenue water. So that's water that we take out of the environment, we treat and supply to the customers, but it's not paid for. So it's water that's either not billed, not metered, loss through leakage. There's always going to be some water lost through backwashing at your water treatment plant and those sorts of things. But in terms of that graph, it shows that there's a lot of gains we can make by reducing that amount of non-revenue water across the whole 13 schemes. The other key thing through this work, if you look at the figure 2 on page 182, it's the age of our water meters. There's about 10,000 water meters out there, just under 10,000 water meters out there. Half of them are over 10 years old. As a water meters age, they start under-reading what water's going through them. And the industry practices in sort of threshold is about 10 years you replace your meters. So we've got about 5,000 meters out there that are under-reading what's actually being used in the community. So there's a significant bit of work to be done there to replace those meters over a number of years. In terms of the demand management initiatives, you've got what you call customer side initiatives, where you get the customers to do certain things. And then you've got let's call it the supply side, the council side of things. And the main recommendations of the report are to focus on the council side of things, leak detection, pressure management, so reduce the pressure where it's high. If you reduce the pressure where it's high, you get the leakage drops, the actual usage drops without impacting on the customer service levels. So there's some good things you can do there. And the other key thing that a lot of councils are doing is moving to what we call smart water meters. You might have a smart electrical meter on your aircon supply at the moment, they're getting rolled out at the moment. Basically, we currently read the meters manually every 6 months. The smart meters, you can get a reading every couple of minutes if you like. And what some councils have done, there's a portal where customers and residents can dial in and actually watch their own consumption or in real time, and actually start looking at where they're using water, how often they'll find leaks in the middle of the night when nothing's being used. So there's certainly a good push across both Australia and internationally for these smart meters, but they do come at a cost. And so that needs some more work through an information session to get councils across, well, what's the cost of that? What's the benefit of doing that? Not only to the community, but council itself. So yeah, that's, I guess, a potted summary of where this is at. And as I said, there'll be some information sessions with the staff in the next 6 to 12 months, I guess, to progress this further. Happy to take any questions.
Can I just ask something?
Something. Yeah. Councillor Billney, then Councillor Spanos.
Through the chair. Thanks, Bruce. It's a pretty tight rope though, because we're trying to save water, but water is part of our revenue collection, so it's a bit of a balancing act. Have we sort of established, if we do reduce the water, the impacts on our infrastructure, what the trade-off there is? I didn't read, I'm a bit like Councillor Cardew, it was a fairly lengthy document to read through, but
yeah, absolutely. The report does look at that, and it particularly looks at the benefits you would get by delaying your capital expenditure on improving or upgrading your infrastructure. Now, that's probably going to happen in your major towns. It's not going to really have much of an impact in, say, Mount Garnet, where there's not that many connections, but certainly in Malanda, Yungaburra, Atherton areas, if you delay the time when you need to upgrade the network or the treatment plants, that's a benefit to council. So in the report, they have done a benefit cost ratio for all the different initiatives, plus some combinations of initiatives. And I suggest that that's the sort of information you get into in some detail in the information sessions, because trying to do it at this level in a council meeting is just not going to help. But yeah, that's the whole purpose, is to present what are the benefits versus the costs, and then you can make some informed decisions about what initiatives or suite of initiatives you may or may not want to implement.
Thanks, Bruce. Can I also just make a comment? Thank you very much. I believe today's your last day.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you very much for all the assistance and guidance that you've provided to me, and possibly to all the other councillors. It's been much appreciated, and good luck for whatever the future holds for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. We'll go Councillor Spanos.
I think you answered a couple of things for me, and I think I'll wait until the information session. I think that'll be best suited for me. Yeah. I just had a couple of questions, but I think I'll leave it till the information session.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah, look, Councillor Cudgett.
Yeah, thanks, man. Look, I also want to thank Bruce for your contribution. You've been a breath of fresh air in this space since you've come. You've made a hell of a difference. Easy to talk to, easy to communicate with, get good outcomes, and we're going to miss you, mate. And all the best in the adventure. Yeah,
appreciate it.
Final call, councillors. Is this your last report?
There's one more.
There's one more.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a mover and seconder on this one. This is 12.7. So those in favour? Carried, thank you. 12.8. Local Authority Waste Management Action Committee, Council Representative. Councillors, I believe there's a councillor that's expressed an interest here in this one. And I believe that's Councillor Lang, is that right? Yep. Yep. So Councillor Lang, you're happy to put your hand up to be the representative for the LawMac?
Definitely.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick one through to Jackie. In the recommendation, we've got the word advisory committee and it's action committee.
Gotcha.
Where, sorry?
In the recommendation,
Yep.
We've got advisory committee and there's action committee. I think that was my fact check, isn't it?
I just did copy and paste from your report.
All right, Councillor Billney.
Through the chair, look, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation that Councillor Lang be nominated for that position.
Fantastic. So we've got a mover for Councillor Lang, a seconder. Councillor Hayden is seconding. Those in favour? Carried, thank you.
Jackie, I moved it.
Oh, sorry.
Is there still one more person?
No, that's it.
Yeah, so look, yeah, on behalf of council, I'd also like to thank Bruce Gardner for the work he's done since he's been here. We have really enjoyed working with Bruce, and he's brought a lot to the organisation. And on behalf of the entire council, I wish you all the best in the future. And
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I wish you all the best as well in the many, many local government challenges that lie ahead for you all.
We haven't got many, have we? Okay, that brings us to 12.9 councillors. So 12.9, the driveway crossover policy. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hayden's moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lang. Councillor Hayden.
No, fine with the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Billney.
Yeah, through the chair. I've sort of been involved, not with informing this policy, but dealing with this policy over the last couple of months, and I agree with the intent of the policy, particularly with the primary access into one's property. I'm still a little bit confused, or not confused, concerned about access to secondary areas in rural areas where the drains are made so deep, in some cases over a metre from what I've seen, that prohibit access into paddocks and stuff like that. I would just like to understand, is there any way, we're not asking for a full-fledged culvert or anything like that, is there any ways that we can sort of keep those drains to a certain height so that access can still be allowed?
Yes. So if I may, through the chair, maybe to provide a bit of background as to why we have we have standards for the design of driveways, and we require people to seek a permit because in a lot of cases in our shire we do have driveways or accesses to properties that are not permitted and do not meet our standards. And the reason why we have those standards and require permits is to ensure that the driveways that are installed are actually not impacting on the safe trafficability of our roads or the efficient functioning and maintenance of our assets. So we want to make sure that driveways are constructed in the right location where they don't impact on our ability to drain the roads or to safely travel over those roads. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of driveways, as I said, that are not permitted and are not constructed in accordance with standards, and that then impacts our ability to maintain roads. And when we do maintain roads, we end up with situations where there is a deep drain required to basically get the water from A to B, and you can't get it flowing upwards, upstream, or rise in elevation. If people can help me find that without pumping, then I'll be a very rich man. So to ensure that the drainage continues to flow, sometimes those drains are really, really deep. If those driveways were permitted and constructed in accordance with the standards, that would not be a problem. We would be able to maintain our roads accordingly. So that's the difficulty, where we've got a lot of properties where people have got multiple access points in locations where we would normally not approve it, because it's either unsafe or it prevents us from maintaining the road in an efficient way. Or where, if it was approved, it would have been constructed in accordance with standards, which would also allow us to maintain the roads in a safe and functional way. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
yeah, I understand. It's just, you know, just trying to see if there's another way we can, you know, as long as the safety.
So my answer is the best way to do that would for people to apply for a driveway permit and construct it in accordance with standards. So we know it's in the right location, and we know that when we maintain a road, there's not going to be any impact on those driveways.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Councillor Cardew.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, I totally disagree with this officer's recommendation. This driveway access crossover policy was amended in the last term of council because council did work on a rural road, Pitney Crossing Road, just prior to Christmas last year. So they lifted the height of the road, which caused the people living and working on those properties adjacent to that road, they couldn't get access to their property. We took away their legal point of entry to their property. They could not get in or out of the property with their cars. A four-wheel drive even could not get in or out of their property. We had, that was property one on the corner. The other properties, which is rural properties, the farmer couldn't get his harvesting machinery in and out of the property to do his work with his tractors, because we altered the shape and the height of the road and the shape of the drain, where they've had access to their properties for many, many years. So the policy was amended to reflect that if council found it necessary to do work on these rural roads and alter the profile of the road, then we would not take away their point of access that they rely on to do whatever they've got to do, whether it be get access to their property, to their residential property on there, or their farming property. This was why it was amended. The fact that we do have to maintain our roads and we do have to maintain our drains is very important. But where we do work on these roads that have a detrimental impact to the property owners adjoining the road and take away their access they've had there for many, many years, is not right. Now, in this particular case out there, like I said, one residence out there was left without access to their property right through the whole of the Christmas period last year. The farmer could not get onto his property to do his work with his machinery, his harvest, couldn't get his harvester into his paddocks. So these are the sorts of things that we as council cannot ignore. We have to allow people to have access to the property. The policy was only changed to ensure that if council went on these roads and done work, and they took away that access point, then we would reinstate it to a satisfactory standard. I'm not talking about anybody that wants a new access or or what have you, yes, they've got to design it and construct it in accordance with the F&Q rock minerals, etc., etc. I'm only talking about where council goes onto a road and does work and takes away the access that they normally use. And it could be one, it could be two, it could be three accesses in a rural environment. So I don't support this at all, and I highly request that the other councils don't support it all. Just leave it alone. It was changed only just in the last term to reflect this. Nothing more. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Koji. Councillors? Councillor Bartlett?
A little bit of clarification on what Mark, you were saying. So somebody can apply for another access to their property as like a legal.
People can apply to an access to their
Would
property
that then be
in accordance
covered?
with there's actually a toolkit on our website and a guide
Yeah.
and a permit application form. Yeah, and they can apply,
So,
and then they get a permit. Depending on obviously if the location is appropriate, and they'll be conditioned to construct that in accordance with the relevant standard for that type of access. So there's a different standard for rural and for residential. And obviously we make sure that the standard is a one size fits all, but sometimes that doesn't fully fit. So our development engineer will make sure that it's an appropriate standard that suits that circumstance.
so if it was a permitted access on a rural property, like there was.
Then generally,
would it be covered by?
just normal maintenance to our roads, so resheeting, where we just basically bring back the gravel that has over time eroded off the road. We bring that back on. That would not affect their access because they already would have a pipe across the drainage or a causeway through the drain at a sufficient distance from the road. So that would be a proper grade line, and it wouldn't affect their access.
Through the chair.
Councillor Spannels?
Mark, just a question. People that live on that road, were they notified at all, or did they know we were coming through there with their machinery?
In that specific circumstance, I don't believe that those people were notified that they were notified that the work was occurring, that they weren't necessarily made aware that might impact their access at the time.
Could that have alleviated if we had have made them aware that this was going to be happening, or that that the access was going to be difficult then?
Well, possibly, and in the policy, there's definitely a requirement for us to let people
I would have thought so, yeah, especially if we're going to be changing their entry, and we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I would think it just makes sense to make them aware that, listen, once we come through here and do this work, your access is going to be an issue. Yeah, so
yes.
But
under the current policy, we've got a requirement to let them know if that's the case, and then construct a fully compliant access for them.
Councillor Carter?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just to be clear, if we adopt this as it is there now, we take away what we did in the previous term. We're only going to say they allow one access only. Too bad if they've got multiple accesses to different parts of their farm that they need to get machinery onto, and the only way they can get onto there is off that road. I mean, and it's only occurs, this only occurs if we do work and take away their access. Everything else remains the same in the policy. The policies, if they want to put a new crossover in to get access to whatever, then they go through the permit approval process. This only affects, if we take this away, we will take away what we've done in the previous term and change this policy to allow that if council goes and does work on roads and takes away an access that's been there for a good while, then they're not going to get it back. They've got to pay to get their access back, and I don't believe that's right.
Councillor Hayden?
So, but through the chair, if they had a proper access to the other side of the paddock and we interfered, we have stated that we would reinstate it or fix it up so they can get access, as long as it's a constructed driveway that's in accordance and approved. Is that right?
Yeah, so through the chair, that is a good point, and if council is of mind to resolve and clarify that issue in the policy, I would suggest that we may bring it back at the next meeting, where I can make a further amendment in it that it refers to the primary access and any approved and compliant access, because we don't want to restrict or interfere with any approved and compliant access if it's not an access that is near the rural number. But at the moment, anybody, if the policy remains as it is, anybody could basically cut a hole in the gate, in the fence at the moment, install a gate and said, I've had access here all the time. I wouldn't have a clue. And then if I do maintenance to the road, I have to build them a fully compliant driveway, which is obviously a significant cost to our ability to do maintenance and renewals, but also to our maintenance funding.
As you just make those, deal with those matters, have an information session and bring it back as a...
Yep.
Does that work?
Yep.
So remain as it is for now, Councillor Carter.
Sorry?
If we have an information session and consider the matters that have just been raised, along with your matters, and have an information session and reconsider this policy at the time.
I don't, thank you. I don't think an information session is going to change anything, because you talk about having access at rural numbers. The example on Picnic Crossing Road was there was multiple properties there that made this one farmer, multiple different titles, multiple different addresses, without anything on them other than a paddock. They don't have a rural number. So I don't know why, we just got to leave it alone. If we interfere with the road and the access and take it away, then we put it back. It's simple. We're overcomplicating it. In my view, it's got to leave it where it is.
Yeah, look, councillors, I mean, I think it is tricky getting the balance right. I understand Councillor Cardew's point of view. You know, a lot of these farmers, you know, they don't have a primary residence on 100 acres. That's just their 100-acre paddock, but they do need the driveway. So I'm supportive of coming back with an information session and seeing if we can find a way through it. Because the other side of the argument is council becomes obliged to do every farmer that comes in and says they need a driveway access, or this is where it used to be, or whatever it is. Our policy is going to lock us into putting in all these driveway accesses. So we need to get that balance right, because one will upset the farmer, and the alternative will cost Councillor Mozza. We'll have a permanent road crew making crossovers. So I'm fully supportive of the information session to see if we can navigate that a little bit better, if everyone's happy with that. So yeah, I'd suggest that we defer this one until we've had that time to work through it, if that's okay with the General Manager. Council, defer this item pending an information session. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Lang and Councillor Hayden.
The motion had a mover and seconder.
Sorry, we did have, actually we did have Councillor Hayden and Councillor Lang already. So would you be happy to revert to the new motion? Okay, those in favour? Carried. Thank you. You can record that one, thanks, Jackie. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 13.1, Community and Corporate Services Financial Report, May 2024. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Lang moving and Councillor Hayden seconding. Do you have any questions, Councillor Lang?
No questions.
Questions for our Finance Manager, councillors? You don't need a reprieve, do you?
Appreciate that, thank you.
So, did you have anything that you wanted to talk to there, Erica, in that report?
Just, I suppose it's
fairly standard report. There are a couple of separate resolutions this year in this month's report, and that's just primarily due. I had to finalise budget documents and draw a line in the sand to get that done. So there are some budget changes that have come. As you know, things change all the time, so that's why there's those few resolutions there, but hopefully it's all fully self-explanatory. But happy to take any questions.
Final call, councillors. Questions for Erica? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 13.2, councillor remuneration, expenses, reimbursement and resources policy. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew and Councillor Vardy. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This item come up because of what I raised at the last meeting about some uniform allowance for councillors. And thank you very much for bringing it back to the next meeting, officers. Very prompt and very good. My only question is at the value of $300 for the term. I would have thought that $300 is not going to buy us much, you know, as far as uniforms is concerned. I did discuss earlier, you know, whether we have an additional amount per annum, you know, each year. But I think, you know, in view of some of the comments when that was brought up, I just think I probably don't think that's very appropriate. You know, if we buy some uniform, it should last us our term. But I just don't. If that's the case, if we're not going to have a yearly increase, maybe we up the ante here this a little bit so that it can afford us to get a decent set of uniforms. So, you know, from 300 to 500 maybe as a one-off. I don't know. That would be my thoughts. But you don't, especially the ladies, who are not going to get much for $300. Anyway, that was my thoughts. I'm happy either way. I just think if it was a one-off sum, then maybe increase it a little, just so that it can get a decent set of uniform. And I believe we're the head of our corporate. We're the council. We lead this organisation. And it'd be good if we could all look the same when we go away and go out and meet people. And I think, you know, presentation is everything. You know? So that's my view.
Did you want to move the motion to increase it?
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, I'd be happy to increase it. Yeah, that's no worries.
Yeah, I'd support that and increase it. And if we don't use it, we don't use it.
That's right. You don't have to
yeah,
use
you don't
it.
have, it's not. It's not. Like yeah, it's just there. Because right, it is good if we use it.
Councillors? Councillor Dillon.
Yeah, through the chair. Look, I agree that we should be attired in a certain manner, as Councillor Cardew is today, looking very smart. Well done. But $300, I mean, you could get a nice corporate shirt with a logo and a t-shirt, you know, 2 or 3 of them, and I think it would fit within that $300 budget. So for me, $300 is acceptable. I don't have a problem with that.
Councillors? Yeah, look, councillors, I'm a little bit. I would have thought we could have done it a little bit cheaper than this, to be honest. But if this is the councillor view, I mean, I think it's important that we have either a long like a business shirt and or a polo shirt or blouse or whatever it is with a logo on it. If we've each got one each of those, which is two shirts, I think that's all we need. And when they wear out, we just get a new one. But in terms of having a uniform budget for councillors, I personally think it's a bit over the top, to be honest. We just need a couple of long sleeve shirt and a blouse or a polo is all we really need with the logo. So I think it's personally I think it's over the top. The councillors in the last term were fortunate to get I had my polo on yesterday, and I've got a long sleeve shirt with the council logo on it. It's more like a drill shirt, but it's got the council logo on it. And that's all I needed in the last term, was just those two. But I'm happy to take the opinion of the collective and see where we land. Councillors?
Well, I've moved the officer's recommendation unless they amend it.
I'm happy to second the officer's recommendation. What is it, $300, is it?
At the moment, yeah.
I'm happy to, you've moved it, I'll second it, and that's all.
Yeah, so we've got a mover and seconder.
Marie has as well, sorry.
So, okay, we've got a mover and seconder. Those in favour of the motion that's on the screen? That's carried. That's good, thank you. Okay, that brings us to 13.3. Landed pool agreement update number 2. Can we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney is moving. Seconder, Councillor Barty. Councillor Bilney.
Yeah, through the chair. I've been privy to the discussions that we've had with the school in relation to the community usage of that pool, and I confirm the accuracy of the commentary within the report. So just on a high level from my part, council was trying to activate the community usage. Currently it was being used on a Monday to Friday between 6 AM and 6 PM, Monday to Friday for 20 weeks of the year. The only time that was available to community was on a Saturday and Sunday. Now, the school was wanting to shift the agreement from a partnership agreement or a community use agreement to a hire agreement. And that came with a lot of legal considerations, basically shifting the onus of responsibility totally onto council. So there was that situation, but then there was also the financial considerations of having to man a pool on a weekend for so many hours with unknown potential community use. So it was a very tricky situation to try and understand. I would argue that there is an element of community use now through the swim club, through arrangements with a couple of individuals provide training and that sort of stuff. So the way to facilitate community use at the moment is you need to join one of those clubs or be part of the program. Then you're covered within the agreements with the swim club and the school, and that's the big issue, is the liability contained within that agreement. So we've asked for a bit of information, and that was not forthcoming. The school basically said, well, if you want to be part of community use, this is what it looks like. I don't personally believe that there's any benefit to the community in that pathway. So I support what officers have recommended, and for noting it's a difficult one. I don't believe in the last 6 months we've had anyone knocking on the door saying, you know, where is our use? We just need to guide them to where they can have access through those programs. I think I hope I've covered it.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Councillor Bilney. Councillors? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I acknowledge what Councillor Bilney has said. It's clear the school wants to depart from our arrangement. That's fine, that's their choice. They own it, they run it. We've tried everything that we can, I believe, to secure public access, and we haven't been able to achieve that other than through the community clubs, which, and from what I think I read in here somewhere, outside of those clubs, the community use was very minimal, to say the best, to say the least. So let's just accept it, move on, don't waste any more time and money on it. Okay.
much. Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. That brings us to 13.4, Spinal Life Australia Navigating Toward Inclusion AAA report. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Lang, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Lang.
So the Tablelands, as far as I'm concerned, is a very inviting and sought after area for everyone from all walks of life. So I believe we do need to make this an inclusive and accessible region for everybody. So I fully support this. Yep.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Kaji.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Unless I've missed something, did we have an information session on this?
So through the chair, councillor, I'll take you back to the, I think it was the second last council meeting of the previous council. The inclusion committee did do a deputation to council, and based on that deputation, it was advised to bring the report straight to council.
Because I don't know much about it at all. So I would have thought that I'd like to see this left on the table and do another information with the whole new council before we vote on anything.
Just jog my memory, that was the same, at the same meeting we had representations in relation to Tinaroo Dam and access from the Caribbean Park, so that was all rolled into that one, Councillor Kaju, where you were very supportive of the outcomes, I thought.
Anyway, that's what the implications if we endorse this today?
So through the chair, councillor, if you endorse this today, it goes to the advisory committee, and excuse me, all recommendations that are made in here, the advisory committee look at and make a recommendation back to council. So there's a lot of ground proofing that needs to be done around the recommendations that are in this report. So that is the work that takes place behind the scenes with the advisory committee, and then we'll come back and workshop with council on any recommendations that are made.
Councillor Bill.
Through the chair, I'm just looking through the report, page 416 talks about the consultation internally and externally. There's been substantial discussions with different agencies externally of TRC, so yeah, look, I support taking this further, and the advisory committees will make recommendations to council of projects that do fall out of this. We were part of the everybody welcome here situation, so yeah, I see this as the natural involvement of inclusion, as Councillor Lang mentioned.
Final call. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. 13.5, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, 5 June 2024. So this is, just accepting the minutes. Can we have a mover of those minutes, please? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Hayden, I wasn't looking. Seconder? Councillor Barty. Those in favour? Carried. That brings us to TRC Advisory Committee Policy Corp 047. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bilney, and a seconder. Councillor Spanos, Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair, when I first looked at this policy, and I support the policy, I was hoping that all the nominations for the various advisory committees was going to come to here so we could actually get on with it. Can I just ask what the timeline will be now, or would we have the opportunity for calling a special general meeting? Because I think there's one scheduled on the 11th. Could we actually advance the advisory committee nominations into that meeting so that we're not waiting, is I guess
That's what I'm saying.
Excuse me. The EOI has closed and we've received just under 90 applications across all advisory committees. So they're actually out with the managers at the moment to go through those and assess, and then a recommendation will come back to council. We do have a couple of officers that are away, so I would need to check if I can bring that back earlier. The close-off date for officers' feedback is tomorrow, but I do acknowledge that there are some officers that aren't able to assess just now.
Yeah.
So I am happy to take that on notice and come back to council on that.
Thank you.
Councillor Koji?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Dave, we need to get this up and running sooner rather than later. The only thing that concerns me a little is in here, you want to change this advisory committee's policy. Say that, I note here that the chair of the committee selects the members from the nominations, which is fine, but why does those persons' names need to be appointed by resolution of council? The bit I don't understand today. Because if those, every time, I don't think you need to know each and every member and then come to a council meeting to endorse that. That's up to the chair and the committee to select those members, because that could change multiple times during the course of the advisory committee, in a 4-year term. I don't see why the names of those members need to come back to council for endorsement every time it changes. So I think that needs to be taken out of the policy. Other than that, I'm happy with it, but I just don't think that part needs to be in there.
So, through the chair, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's legislative requirement that the members are endorsed by council.
Like through what legislation?
Local Government Act.
Local government.
I'm just very quickly trying to look it up, Councillor Koji, so I can tell you the provision that relates to it.
Through the chair, Tudor is away in relation to Nana, but he said I am able to, so we will be able to finalise that list if that's.
Thank you, yes, I'm
aware
aware of that. Thank you.
Just
I'm working with the general manager
Yep.
to work through those.
That's good, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just while it was quiet.
The matter could be left until, if you want to progress, just can I find it? Thank you. Yeah, appoint advisory committees. It says the local government appoints the advisory committees. So you can, I mean, it's a power that could be delegated. It's not a power that can't be delegated. So it's a power that could be delegated to me through the delegations. I just don't think it is, and I'm not sure that.
Couldn't it be?
I mean, it's not something that I've seen done previously, that they always, appointments are done in public meetings to those advisory committees. But in some senses, I suppose it gives that, recognises the status that you're giving that advisory committee. It's an important part of the decision-making process that the local government's invoking, if you like. And having the weight of the resolution just reinforces that, and that little bit of ceremony about it, I suppose, in some senses. But
I understand that the local government appoints the advisory committees as per that, but the members on that committee, that's.
Well, it can't be a committee. You can establish it, but appoint means that the members are appointed to it.
Well, then can that delegation be given to the chair of that committee?
I believe, sorry, through the chair, I believe it's the CEO.
The CEO or
has
the
the
mayor, I'm
delegation.
sure that the chair of an advisory committee can actually have a delegation, and it's a different part of the legislation.
I just think
I'm
they're
100% familiar with it.
complicated.
Well, I didn't write the Act, Council, I'm just telling you what's in it.
So look, councillors, I think clearly that's a requirement, that they have to be appointed by council or a delegation.
You can, to the CEO. Absolutely delegate it to the CEO, speed up the process.
Yeah.
If you wish.
Yeah, well, got to speed it up, take away red tape, because it's ridiculous.
I think the policy as it's currently drafted is reflecting the will of the previous council towards the end of the term in relation to advisory committees, councillor, but that's fine for this council to have a different view.
So do we need to change the recommendation to allow you to delegate?
That would just be included as an amendment to the policy.
Through the chair, but we'll need to bring the policy back if it's not part of the resolution.
I think we can just adopt the policy, including an amendment that members may be appointed and the delegation by the Chief Executive Officer. And it remains within, we just finished today.
Councillor Billing?
Yeah, through the chair. Would that also, so acknowledging what Shirley said, that some managers are away, if there's a certain advisory committee that the membership's all been set and agreed upon by whoever, can they be just done and then move on, or do we have to wait to Brian, the CEO, to do it all at once? Because I'd like to see it happen. As soon as they're ready to go, let's push the button and do it.
There's no reason for them to be bulked up, so to speak. We did talk about that it might be nice to have like an induction for all of the advisory committees, so you can acknowledge that people are volunteering their time and have some form of, as I say, ceremony around it. I'm open to just sign a piece of paper, get on with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got Councillor Bilney and Councillor Spanos. Are you happy with that amended motion? Yep, so everyone's happy with that?
Yep.
Those in favour? Carried, very good.
Just delete the amendment.
13.7, project nomination for external funding, Works for Queensland 2024-27 and local roads and community infrastructure program. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillors? Councillor Bilney? And a seconder. Councillor Lang. Councillor Bilney?
No, look, I see what's been recommended. I have no reason to make any additional comment.
Councillor Hayden?
I understand why it's done, but it's just disappointing that councillors weren't involved in any of this. It's just been a decision by officers, and that's probably a bit disappointing on my behalf.
Just a clarification, if I could, Mr Mayor. We haven't made a decision, we've made recommendations for council to consider.
Well, we can change it.
If you're of a mind to change it, absolutely. Understand, it's not changing, we're not changing project budgets or allocations to projects here, we're assigning known received funds to particular projects.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Cardew.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I tend to agree with Councillor Hayden. I would like a little bit more input into this because we should have a say what projects we want to see this money go towards. I personally don't agree with all the projects that are put money against in this year. I'd like to see it left on the table and let's have a look at it. And is there any time frames with regards to accepting the funding?
LRCI requires to be nominated ahead of the financial year end, so we're working to quite a tight time frame there. And Works for Queensland, I believe, is the 5th of July. So we are working to really tight time frames. I absolutely considered how best to kind of preface all of this. The logic behind nominating projects that came from the budget directly was that there has been contribution from councillors in determining what that forecast budget is. So based on that, we're not proposing anything that's new or different here. These are projects that are already appearing in a budget that has been discussed by council.
Because one of the things in here, there's two bits here I don't agree with. One is the Price Creek, putting more money into that at this point in time. And the second one is the Mount Garnet swimming pool, 500,000. I mean, what are we going to do with 500,000 for swimming pool in Mount Garnet? It's not going to build a new swimming pool. I think it's going to give the community misconception of what we're trying to, or what are we trying to achieve with up there. I just don't agree with those couple of items for a start. So I don't know. I won't be voting for it if those things stay in as they are. We either leave it and deal with it, or if we can with it. Well, it's getting a bit hard now because we're dealing with a financial year. Yeah.
Is it to vary it?
Through the chair, it is absolutely possible to vary. So the Mount Garnet swimming pool, for example, is very much just an indicative cost estimate. What it demonstrates, particularly at a state level, is that we're committed to exploring what happens with that facility. But as to whether that proceeds, it would really depend on all of the other work that's being done around that particular project.
Well, I mean, the swimming pool at Mount Garnet, I don't know how much more we've got to explore on that, but we either give them a pool or we don't. And using $500,000 to do more investigation with, I'm not going to vote for that, because it's been investigated and back again. So, yeah.
So maybe to assist through the chair, if I may. So, as Cara has indicated, so these amounts are actually already in the 10-year capital plan. They were specifically for Mount Garnet Pool. There was already a $500,000 allocation in the 10-year capital plan. The only change that we're suggesting here is to bring that forward a year. I note that that was put in the 10-year capital plan before we knew the full extent of the damage and the cost estimates from our supply from the people that we've asked preliminary quotes from. That was predominantly just to fix the issues with the pool remaining there. But there was already a $500,000 allocation in there. As Cara is indicating, if because we're currently doing community engagement and we're still awaiting feedback from the community in relation to how they propose to help us manage the facility, should we rebuild a new one or rebuild the existing one, and that will come back to council, and then council can make an ultimate decision if they want to keep that in the budget or if they want to do something else with the pool. If that's then the case, as Cara indicated, it's a relatively simple process to then get a reallocation in the LSEI funding to another project that we already have in the budget. In the Works for Queensland funding for another project that we have in the budget for. It's a non-competitive funding application.
Yes.
It basically what they just want to make sure that the projects that we nominate are eligible under the funding guideline and meet the outcomes that they want to achieve with the funding, and we would have other projects that we could shift the money to if that's the case, if that's the outcome. And with the LSEI funding nominated allocation to projects, that doesn't mean that we're suggesting to increase the budget from what council has actually today endorsed in their budget. It's just to allocate external funding source to the budget that was endorsed by council.
Well, if that's the case, can we take that 500 out of the Mount Garnet swimming pool and put it into one of the others, like the reservoir, the water reservoir or something, and just take? I just don't want to give the community false hopes that they're going to get a new pool or something. Which to me, this is what it's doing. Can we take that?
Sorry, Councillor Kaji, 500,000 is already in our budget for the
Yeah, the 10-year capital plan, that was in there. That's been put in there prior to the finding out what the pool was actually like, and before all the other consultation that's been carried out. I understand that. I just don't want to allocate. This is money from the state. Why put money against a project that we may not be able to do? We know we can do the water reservoirs. Why don't we just move it to there? You said you can change it later on. So if you have to meet time frames, take it out of there and put it over into the reservoirs or one of the others, and leave and don't give the community false hopes with regard to the swim pool.
Yeah, look, I think we're getting a bit ahead of the game here. We're just trying to meet a timeline that's not going to lock us into anything. But I'll go to Councillor Billney.
Yeah, through the chair. I think it's really critical to understand that, particularly with the Priors Creek situation, we've been asked to rearrange our yearly contribution moving forward closer, which was 7.5 million. That's actually going to come down to 7.1 off memory. It's actually going to reduce further because we're not asking to add more to the scope of what's being achieved. It's actually being funded. So there's less ratepayers' money being used. So that brings it back to 6.4 or something like that, roughly, as what's being funded through from council reserves.
I don't disagree with putting funded money into Priors Creek. That's what I want to see. Use federal funding as opposed to rate-based funding. That's fine. I don't have a real drama with that. But and you touched on other money being brought forward. We'll have a difficulty with that. But that's a subject for another day. But I hope it's a subject for another day. But the 500,000, I think we need to decide what we're going to do with that today.
Can it go against those water reservoirs, or is it more than the budget is?
It's more than what the budget allocation is for the reservoirs. If councils is considerate of us just finding another project that is currently already in the budget that meets the eligibility requirements
within the water area,
then we could do that.
So before we do that, would we not be having a discussion or a workshop around this?
We'll run out of time.
We're not around saying you've got to put it there, and then they said we could change it. Why are we changing it today?
Yeah, well, I agree with Councillor Hayden. You know, we can change it. We're not building up expectations with the Mount Garnet community. The $500,000 is in our budget.
Yeah, through the chair.
Councillor Bill.
Equally, I would argue that, you know, by putting the 500 in, signalling that we may do something, taking it out, is signalling we're not going to do nothing. So it's a bit of an interesting one. I think leave it and deal with it later, just so that Cara and her team can do what they've got to do.
Councillors, any more views on this one before we go to the vote? Okay, we've got a mover and seconder for 13.7. Those in favour? Carried.
Thanks.
That brings us to 13.8, Microsoft 365 E5 licence setup. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillors, we must be getting tired. We've got a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lang and Councillor Hayden. Councillor Lang?
It's an essential part of our business. I don't see any issues at all.
Councillors? Councillor Barty?
I can just ask, yeah, could you just explain more about what the upgrade actually means from the E3 to the E5?
Yep.
So E3 provides us a number of elements. There's actually an attachment to the report that covers off there's a table at the bottom that covers off the modules. The jump up to E5 provides us some extra elements and extensive modules around security. So it will enable us to continue forward with our cybersecurity maturity. And also in the E5 licensing also includes our Microsoft Teams, which is our phone platform. We're currently paying for that in addition at the moment. That then becomes inclusive of the E5 licensing.
How much is that currently?
For the
Oh,
teams
sorry.
itself, sorry, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but overall, from the current licensing that we have now to jump up to the E5, we're looking at a 14% increase.
Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Amanda, what's the increases our users? I just read through that by a fair bit. Well, looks, I mean, the number of users per wallet, but what by doing that, what's the users mean? You know, like, there was something in here that says for 20 years, one plan, the exchange on plan, online plan 1, email only for 20 users, and then it increases. Those users increase. Is that? Can you just explain
Yeah,
that?
so get through the chair. So what we did as part of this, so acknowledging that from an E3 to an E5, it is a substantial jump per user. So as part of this, we did an extensive review across the whole of council and had a look at every single user's requirements. And some that we have had on our current E3 licensing, based on their needs, we're able to actually drop them back to an E1 license, which is much cheaper. So as part of the review, we've been able to reduce our high-end licensing down a little bit and increase our lower licensing up a bit. So overall, that has resulted in a more cost-effective result for council.
So basically, in the cost-benefit analysis here, you're proposing over a 3-year period is going to be $105 or nearly $106,000 increase from the previous 3 years. But will we see cost-saving benefits through those things that you've just said?
No, so those cost figures there are based on the reviewed licensing numbers.
So they're already built in.
Councillors, final call. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Councillors, we haven't got many items left, but I suggest we might just take a 5-minute break, because sometimes you think there's only 1 or 2 left, but they take longer than you're saying there. So we'll just take a 5-minute break. We'll adjourn for 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, councillors, I believe that brings us to item 15, business without notice. Councillor Cardew.
Yes, thanks, Ed. I want to move a motion in business without notice, and the motion is that council approve the development of a specific strategy for historic, rail and mining tourism for Herberton.
So Councillor Cardew's got a motion there. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Barty seconding.
You could do.
Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this motion is to develop a strategy for the historic rail corridor and the historic mining museums in Herberton, so that we can get some sort of strategy. We all met with the historic rail people there a few weeks ago. I think all of us except for one councillor, and what they're doing up there is absolutely fantastic, and they need assistance from council to keep progressing and to get bigger. Mainly, and the numbers that they provided to us, which I don't have, and I can't remember exactly what they were, but the amount of people that they're putting through that, just the little putt that goes from Herberton over to the village is phenomenal. And you can just imagine what they could do if they had that line all the way to Atherton, and the other tourism interests that will come with that, not only for the rail, for the historic rail people, but also for the mining museum and also for the village in Hebburn. I think it's really good. Notwithstanding, I understand completely that council officers are also in the process of developing a tourism strategy for the broader TRC, which is fine, and I accept that, but that's probably a little ways off. So what I'd like to see is that this strategy be developed in the shorter term to allow Herberton and Historic Rail people to move forward, to secure funding, etc. So I'd like to see this in place now, or get underway now, so that they can move forward.
Thanks, Councillor Kaji. Councillor Hayden.
Okay. So I don't disagree with Councillor Kaji. I'm not allowed to call you this name. But my thing is, if we were given a presentation on tourism by the officers a few weeks ago, but I would think we would start a strategy on the whole of the Tablelands Regional Council instead of just picking out one town. I think they all go hand in hand, because we really have to share our tourism people around the whole entire council region. But that's my opinion. So it could be brought forward faster than being delayed, maybe, and then work on the whole. I mean, I understand that Herberton's the Historic Rail wants to move forward, but that's probably support letters from council. But if we're going to do a strategy, why would we not do the whole of the Tablelands region? That's all I'm thinking.
Thanks, Councillor Hayden. Councillor
Yeah,
Billy.
through the chair, and I acknowledge what Councillor Cardew and Hayden's both saying. It is an important potential project that may fall out of the tourism strategy. So yeah, I think our efforts should be on the wider TRC tourism strategy, and then use that to assist and guide what Councillor Cardew is asking for.
Thanks, Councillor Billy. Councillor Barty.
Yeah, I felt when we spoke with the railway group though that they specifically requested a strategy for progressing funding, like a standalone strategy. That was the feeling I got from it, so I'm happy to support Kev on this one.
Yeah, Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, I agree that we do need an overarching tourism strategy. I totally agree. If you look in our operational plan that we just approved today, there's 3 strategies in there for cycling. 3, and one of them hasn't even finished yet. Those can all be, all these other strategies for tourism can all be taken out once we have our overarching tourism strategy in place. In the meantime, let's get this one going. The Herberton people are really dependent on this here. So let's get it going. We can take all these other strategies out once we get the overarching tourism strategy done. In the meantime, let's get on with this one.
Thanks, Councillor Kaji. Councillors, who? Councillor Hayden.
Through the chair. Now I can't think of your name. So can we, what do you think, Angela?
Yep.
You've done presentation.
Through the chair, there's no doubt that heritage activities which Herberton, both the mining centre and the historic village make a significant contribution. But I guess as per our information session last week, I will be bringing a report to the next council meeting with the intent to start that process as soon as that council meeting, and if that process is endorsed straight away. I guess my concern, if we start going off and doing specific tourism strategies for specific locations and attractions, we're going to be taking our limited resources away from a strategic approach to doing these individual projects. And again, there is very limited resources within council, and as per the information session, I think the approach should be to look at the broader strategy first and then consider the likes within that strategy of how we bring more visitors into Herberton. But also, we've got a destination management plan that sets out the framework for tourism for the region, so it'll be part of the strategic review. And we can bring more visitors into the region, but I guess the issue is where are they going to stay? So again, that's why if we took that strategic approach initially, that might lead to a better outcome with the resources that council's got at its disposal to deliver this strategy and the holistic strategy.
Thanks, Councillor Codger.
Yeah, thanks. So what are we going to do with the ones we've already got and the ones we've already in the pipeline, like the cycling strategy? We got a workshop on that in another week or so. I mean, there's 3 of those strategies in there. 3. Not 1, 3. Plus, there's numerous other ones in there. I mean, visitor experience services, you know, event strategy. There's multiple strategies in this document that you approved today that, you know, we should be looking after. We should be. I understand what you're saying. I understand what Angelo says, and I don't disagree with it at all. But I want to get on with this one here, and I want to support the urban communities in doing so.
Councillors, who hasn't spoken that would like to speak on this? No? Councillor Lang? So
I wasn't at the meeting with them when they had it with the historical village. I do fully understand where Kev's coming from, that they're wanting to get moving now. However, we do need to look at the bigger picture and bring everything together. And like Angela said, we don't have resources to be splitting up everything and having all these multiple, you know, things. So I think, yeah, that's just my opinion.
Thanks, Councillor Lang. Councillor Spanos, you haven't got to say anything.
No.
Do you want to say anything before
Just
we go to the vote?
I don't need to. No, I've listened to everybody now, and I think I've got my own ideas on this.
No, that's fine. All right, councillors, we've got a mover and seconder of the motion that's up on the screen. Those in favour? Okay, that's defeated. Okay, councillors, that brings us to.
I've got another business without.
Oh, there's another one. Sorry.
As you all know, I'm the chair of the Traffic Advisory Committee now, and at the meeting last week, Nancy Road intersection was brought up, and I brought it up on the agenda to find out what the status was about getting that intersection closed, or at least left in, left out. I raised it at the meeting. It was glossed over, to say the least. I didn't really get an outcome out of it. In yesterday's paper, there's photos there of previous councillor in there stating different things, and I'm unaware of where we are at with trying to get that intersection closed, or at least left in, left out on that. So what I'm asking now is, and it doesn't have to be at this meeting, but I'd like the engineer to give some clarity on where we're at. What was that letter? Have we got a response to the letter that was talked about in the paper? And I do recall that we did write to TMR some time ago asking their views, and we provided traffic counts on the industrial Albright Street Road and the like. So yeah, I want to bring this to a head because it's been going far too long and we don't know where. I don't expect an answer now, but I'd like either a report or something, or an information session held to get clarity on where we are at this present time and what we need to do to get something done.
Thanks. Can I go to you on that one?
So if I may, through the chair, I can provide a preliminary response. So in the Traffic Advisory Committee meeting that we just recently held, and that's very fresh, so that's why that report didn't come to this council, but it will come to the next, the agenda, the minutes will come to the next council meeting. That issue was discussed, and the representative from TTMR did confirm that a safety assessment was conducted, that resulted in some work that they asked council to deliver under the RFC contract, including a stop sign and some remedial work to the road verge on the opposite side of the Kennedy Highway, opposite the intersection with Minty Road, and some line marking. And And those works have been partially completed and will be completed in the near future. And they also indicated in that meeting that further assessment of future options to increase safety may be considered by DTMI. I could bring a report to council, but I would have to seek advice from DTMI as to what else they want to do. It's not my intersection, and I've got no jurisdiction over it.
Well, I'd be happy with the report coming back if that's okay, because we need to put some more pressure on TMR by the sounds of it to get something done. That's my view.
I'd just like to echo this as well. I was at the meeting also. I'm concerned about that intersection as well. I think something bad's going to happen there, and I agree with what Kev's saying. I really think we need this to be hurried along.
Yeah, the manager of planning's going to.
Just through the chair as well, in addition to what Mark has just said, council's has a conversion application under assessment at the moment with regards to a link road through currently undeveloped lots, but through to the industrial estate. That under its assessment has brought the consideration of Manthey Road and what becomes a Manthey Road into question. So just in the flagging that council has an application under assessment at the moment. Unknown around the resolution of that and when that might be brought to council, but it may catalyse or bring forward the consideration of Manthey Road upon its resolution.
So can you just clarify where the road is?
Yeah, so the conversion application relates to the connection from the Kennedy Highway through the undeveloped sites. I don't know the numbers off my mind, but next to the John Cole development through to the industrial estate. There is a industrial subdivision and we may recall the variation around the trades and industry bulky goods precinct. The industrial subdivision has a road from the Kennedy Highway through to the industrial estate. The application relates to the conversion of that road from non-trunk to trunk infrastructure. But in doing that, potentially that might mean that is the thoroughfare, which might bring into consideration what becomes a Manthey Road on the back of that, should that be constructed and endorsed. Council officers have formed an opinion on that. It is currently under assessment.
I mean, I understand exactly what Sean's saying, and that was in the previous council we indicated, and I think there was a motion moved that we give power to the CEO to do whatever means necessary to try and get negotiate with that developer and get whatever we need to get done in order to get Manthey Road closed. And I understand exactly what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it at all. I mean, if it becomes trunk infrastructure, well and good, and we contribute whatever. But that's going to take time, and I think the community is demanding that something happens sooner rather than later. And yeah, I'd welcome a report from the engineer suggesting the ways forward that we can put pressure on TMR to get something done in the short term, as a temporary measure, at the very least, left in, left out. So yeah, I'd welcome a report.
Yeah. General Manager, is that?
I'm happy to bring a report back to council. Obviously, I'm going to be highly dependent on the information we can obtain from TMI in relation to what their plans are.
Is given the current uncertainty in jurisdiction stuff, is an information session more important, more functional than a report?
We can always schedule an information session if that's appropriate. We don't have to resolve that here. I think the first step for me is to actually contact PTMI and to seek for them to provide me with some detail as to what they have done and what they intend to do with that intersection, and then I'll have a conversation with DLT to see if that's worth taking to an information session or directly to a report to council.
What's your preference, Councillor?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. So long as something comes back with it. I'd prefer an information session than a report, but Mark needs to know what TMR are proposing, what they're proposing in the future. And then we can make a decision on what action we take after that. If we're not happy with what they're going to do, then we can put pressure on them, advocate and put pressure on them after we know what they want to. If we're not happy with what they're going to do, if you're happy with it.
Very good. Okay, is that, have you got any more, councillor Carter?
No, that's all.
That's it? Okay, councillors, that brings us to our confidential session, I believe. So can we have a mover to go into confidential? Sorry, we've got Councillor Bilney and Councillor Barty. Moving and seconding. Move into confidential. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Yeah, so councillors, we'll start with item 12.3. So that's TRC 2024-05, TRC DRFA 2023 South 1. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Lang. And a seconder. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Lang, would you like to talk to that?
Fully support the process that the officers go through to award these down.
Thank you. Councillors? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. So that brings us to item 16.1. Concession request 222 Schaefer Road, Kiroi. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Spanos and Councillor Lang. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And that brings us to 11.2. Sorry, 16.2. Peterson Creek walking track update. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Barty. And a seconder. Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried. Would you like yours recorded in there?
They will get recorded naturally now anyway.
No, we haven't done that yet. We haven't changed the standing orders yet.
Yes, no? No, yes.
All right, councillors, that brings an end, I believe, to our June ordinary council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.